This is it, boys. This is the update we've been waiting for. The balance update of your wet dreams for Dead by Daylight. Regardless of what side you're on, this update is massive for how the game will be played from now on. Let's just get right into it because I'm super excited. So first of all, the progression system is brand new. They estimated that about 4 hours every day were needed to keep up with all the new perks. Now, it's only 1. Basically, they're reducing the grind by about 75%, by their measurement. We'll have to see for ourselves. But this is how it works. So, Prestige used to reset all your perks, all of your offerings, all of your add-ons, all of your items, everything. Now, it doesn't. Prestiging has no downside now. Since there is no reason not to prestige, it's automatic. So after you reach a level, you'll go up a prestige, which I think is great. That's what a prestige should be. It's also unlimited now. Meaning there's prestige not only 3 but 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, who knows how high, maybe up to 99. And on top of that, prestige is finally what it's made for, a bragging right. You can now see it in the match in the scoreboard. Meaning you don't have to tell like a friend, hey, I'm prestige blah blah blah, and then open your game to prove it. Everyone can see your prestige on your character, which is perfect. That's what a prestige should be for, and it's great because it has no downside now. Overall, an excellent change in my opinion. Also, Shrine of Secrets with the new progression changes. Before, you had to unlock the perk in the shrine, basically buy it, and then use blood points to find it in your blood web. Now it's automatic. When you get a perk, all of the compatible survivors or killers now have that perk, which is great. It's such a quality of life feature, I'm super happy about it. They also mentioned transitioning to the new system. So if you have all your characters at level 50, prestige 3, you won't be left in the dust, don't worry. You'll receive a special prestige icon to recognize your achievements if you have prestige 3, and the perks and add-ons. So we're not sure how this will work, but they said they'll be live streaming soon in the PTB that showcase it. Next is matchmaking incentives. So everyone knows Survivor queue times are pretty fucking crazy lately. It could go up to 20, 30, 40 minutes even because no one's playing killer because the game used to be horribly unbalanced and it was unfun. And, you know, Survivor second chance, and whatever side you're opting for, whichever one you think is more broken, I think everyone can agree this game has massive balance issues. So to improve queue times, essentially, they're giving bonus blood points to whatever side is more in demand. So instead of 20-30 minute queue times, people will be playing killer more, at least for the blood points, which is awesome. Since blood points are now more valuable too. Plus 100% isn't just double blood points, since they're more effective at leveling up and everything. It does say matchmaking incentives will be disabled if crossplay is turned off. This makes sense. If crossplay is turned off, you probably don't care about getting into a match as fast as possible. So it just makes sense. But overall, a really nice quality of life feature, a great way to get more blood points, even if there's not an event or something like that. Now this is the big stuff, boys, the gameplay updates, okay? This is what's going to affect every match. They finally changed generator speeds. Everyone's been saying it. It's way too fucking fast to get generators. So everyone knows, they even admit it here, that almost all meta killer perks are slowdown perks, right? Corrupt, Pop, Pain Resonance, Ruin. So they, in response, have increased generator repair time to 90 seconds instead of 80. This doesn't sound like a lot, but it's huge. I cannot tell you how many times in my personal experience, as almost every killer, I've gotten to a gen right as it pops. This will not totally eliminate that, because, I mean, there's still items that make it super fast to repair generators, but that'll make it less common, so you actually have some control. So overall, a nice thing. This is huge, though, this second part. Kicking a generator now instantly removes 2.5% of the maximum progress. This should have been in the game from day one. It just makes sense, right? You kick a generator, it should get damaged. Before, you would kick a generator and you'd essentially be wasting your own time because a survivor could run up, tap it, and run away. It didn't even matter if you could actually get some regression with Ruin or even Overcharge, because they could just tap it, do the skill check, and run away, and it would totally waste your time. And it took about 2 seconds, I believe, so multiplied by 4, and that's 8 seconds total that survivors now have for free. So it was a horrible thing. Now, kicking actually removes progress. It's finally something worthwhile. Not always still, because they have to choose. If you're running away, it still won't do much, but constantly getting survival with friends who would just pressure a gen and you couldn't do anything was infuriating. It was just so frustrating. So this is an excellent change, I think. In most games, this won't make a huge difference, especially in like solo queue, but now it's a lot more effective at countering the super obnoxious survivor type. So they say here, which was surprising, the average kill rates are a little lower than they wanted, which is hilarious to me because they were, you know, I think we've done a pretty good job so far. How can they say that if the game isn't working as intended? But better late than never, I guess. So they've reduced the time it takes to break walls and pallets by 10%. About a third of a second, which doesn't sound like much, but keep in mind this is, you could still use like brutal strength, which increases it even further by 20%. Generators can also be kicked faster, 10% faster. So breaking and stuff like that in general is 10% faster, which is awesome. And like they say here, these can be the difference between hitting a survivor and them reaching a pallet or a window or dead harding. Cooldown for basic attacks by 10%. 0.3 seconds off every basic attack. This is included with save the best for last as well, which is awesome. I always thought it took way too fucking long. It's a meme in the community, right? Killer hits a fucking survivor and then immediately goes to fucking do the dishes on their fucking weapon. It makes no sense. So, I mean, they'll still do it, of course, to give survivors a chance to get out of there, but now it's not as ridiculously long. And the duration of the speed boost survivors get after being hit is also reduced by 10%. This is great. I swear, no matter what killer, even 8 stacks of save the best for last, if they just hold W and shift, they could get like halfway across the map. It was always ridiculous. So this is a great balance change. I think they should have done this a while ago when they introduced the boon totems, but like I said, better late than never. They also tweaked Bloodlust. Now this is really scary. As a killer main, I still think Bloodlust is a bit powerful, but it is necessary to make sure that there aren't infinites. But don't worry, the initial the first stack of Bloodlust is still 15 seconds. They just adjusted the second and third by 5 seconds. Well, the first one's 5 seconds faster, and then Bloodlust Tier 3 is 10 seconds faster. Which is good because, like, you'd never get to Bloodlust 2, let alone 3. So this is a lot more helpful if survivors being cheeky and just running the same loop over and over. This will actually make the killer feel like a killer, which is great. So bullying is finally going to be on the, you know, on the decline. Okay, so if you're a survivor main, you're probably worried right now. Basically, everything about killer is improved, right? Generators are slower, survivors get a shorter speed boost, killers are overall more oppressive. Don't worry, they actually added a huge change to camping and tunneling. So they mentioned survivors almost always use second chance perks. Pretty much always, not even almost. So now, after being unhooked, you will always have a 5-second endurance effect. Base kit borrowed time. That is massive, okay? Basement Bubba, get fucked. On top of that, you have a 7% haste effect for 5 seconds after getting unhooked. So no matter what, you will not be tunneled nearly as much. And if you are, it's way harder, and the killer is basically throwing the match. Because every single hook has borrowed time. It's a mini borrowed time, admittedly, but still borrowed time. But don't worry, because they're not making it too powerful. Basically, if you repair a generator, heal yourself or others, cleanse or bless a totem, sabotage, unhook, or open an exit gate, then these effects will wear off, which is great because, you know, obviously people will fucking abuse that otherwise. So it's overall a really strong change. It's definitely going to change a lot about the game like the rest of this is. But this is huge, right? Killers don't really need to be chivalrous or nice anymore because there's really no reason not to go for the unhooker instead of the person who just got unhooked. Because it's basically impossible to tunnel now, right? I mean, you could still go for them, but then they get a speed boost if you hit them. So it's pretty huge. This will change the game a lot, but overall, I think it's very healthy for the game. Next is meta perk changes. Everyone knows all the meta perks, you know, Borrowed Time, Decisive Strike, Dead Hard, you know, Spine Chill, Iron Will, and then on Killer, you know, Corrupt, Ruin, and a bunch of others. But these are charts for, on the right is high MMR, and up to down is the percentage of usage. As you can see, look at this crazy statistic. 70%, over 70% of people use Dead Hard in high MMR. That is crazy. 70%. On this one goes down because what is locked even? I don't even know what that means, but As you can see on Killer, I mean, pretty much everyone uses Scourge Hook, pretty much everyone uses Corrupt, Barbecue as well, not because it's strong, but the blood points are massive. Talk about that in a bit. So they're changing the Killer meta perks, first of all. Barbecue and Chili, they mention here it's incredibly popular, not because it's amazing, but because the massive blood points. So they don't want them to be the driving factor, so they remove the blood point bonus. This is scary, right? But you got to keep in mind, they mention here, you got to keep in mind, the grind is overall 75% easier, right? So there's no more losing shit in prestige, there's no more having to unlock perks you get from the shrine, and you get bonus blood points if you play whatever side is needed for matchmaking. So overall, I think it's fairly healthy. Barbecue and Chili never really was a perk that you needed, it was just for the blood points. Next is Ruin. Old Ruin, everyone remembers, it's infamous. Even now, Ruin's still crazy. A while ago, it was paired really well with the Blight's perks that would make it basically impossible to cleanse Hex Undying. But now they're changing it. They're reducing the regression speed initially from 150 to 200. They're basically cutting it in half. So it'll definitely reduce its power, but you got to keep in mind generators overall are nerfed, because it takes 10 more seconds to repair one, and kicking a gen actually damages it now. So overall, I think fairly healthy, although it is a Hex perk, so it's still kind of tricky because there's a risk it could be cleansed. But you're definitely going to see Hex on the decline, I think. Now, Pop is next. Pop has always been super powerful. Even after they nerfed it from 60 seconds to 45 seconds, it's still really powerful. So since kicking a gen removes 2.5%, this perk removes 20% instead of 25%, which I think is fair. It's not destroying the perk. It's still making it viable, but it's not breaking it. Next is Corrupt. This perk is kind of interesting, right? It's kind of a big risk if the survivors just hide. It's like a mini, it's kind of a Hex basically, because it goes away after 2 minutes. But the perk will deactivate once the survivor enters the dying state. This is huge, right? You would only bring Corrupt to get that initial first down, right? And then you'd have another 60, 45, whatever seconds where 3 gens were blocked. So this will deactivate afterwards. So Corrupt is kind of going to be a bit niche, in my opinion. It's still strong, don't get me wrong, but it essentially guarantees that you're going to get a down before too many generators, if any, are done. Next is Tinkerer. Tinkerer is another strong perk. They buffed it a while ago, like, what was that, a year ago? Jeez. But it now only activates once per gen. This doesn't sound too bad, but since regression is stronger, I was initially thinking when I heard that change that you would be able to use Tinkerer to, get the notification, run over there, get Pop or whatever, and then kick the gen, and then get it again, and then just camp that gen. But now it only activates once. So this really isn't making it weaker, it's just making it not as exploitable, which is a good change in my opinion. Now, you fellow solo queue survivors, don't you worry, they're changing NOED too. If you've ever been in a match where your teammates suck ass and the killer's somehow worse, but the killer still gets 4 kills because NOED, you're going to be happy to see this. So NOED, they like the way it encourages survivors to cleanse totems, so they're not going to weaken it, but they are going to make it easier to find. So the aura will be visible within 4 meters when it's activated. So when all the gens are done, you can actually see it from 4 meters. And then it actually increases over 30 seconds to 24 meters. So those killers who were like camping and just basically forcing everyone to either get out and then guarantee a 1k or actually get a 2, 3, or even 4k just because they had one stupid perk, that's done for, right? Now you could just wait at the exit gates and then split up and find NOED almost always, because 24 meters is pretty huge. Kindred range is only like 16 for X-ray vision on the killer, and it's a lot farther than you'd think. So this is awesome. I think this adds amazing counterplay to NOED instead of just having to cleanse all the fucking totems, because sometimes you don't have time for that, sometimes there's boons, I get it. But this is overall pretty good, because NOED still serves its purpose. It gives you a lot of lethality that they might not be expecting, but it's not as long-term, and it doesn't have as much sustain as before, which was super annoying. So that's great. Pain Resonance is a fairly newer perk. It's a jack of all trades, like they say. So they're removing the loud noise notification from Pain Resonance. So instead of exploding, the generator will now spark and lose progress, and survivors won't scream. So this is going to change its strategy associated with it a lot, but I think this is, like they mentioned, it'll still stay strong. It's just, you know, not also an info perk. So that's fairly fair, I guess. Next is survivor perks. Dead Hard. Oh my god, Dead Hard is probably more infamous than Decisive Strike was at its best. Dead Hard it's just so powerful, and soon it's not going to be a fucking free getaway from everything. Even the devs mention here, it's basically a third health state. So it's great that they're changing it. So now, instead of dead harding for distance, which was like a huge meme, you'll basically get borrowed time for 1 second, which is just great. Oh my god, I can't tell you how many fucking times someone would dead hard and then just get to the window for free. Now it's actually a mind game perk. I think this is what the devs intended initially. They just, you know, don't know how to fucking balance timely. But again, better late than never. You're gonna hear me saying that a lot. I'm excited for sure for all these changes. Dead Hard is hugely different now. Instead of just a free fucking getaway perk, now there's actual strategy. Killers can bait it out, you know, you could actually wait it out, get a hit at the last second for endurance. It will be tricky because Dead Hard, when it's over, like, you could visually see when it's over. Endurance, I think you still can. I think you could still see it depending on how it activates. But even then, it'll be trickier to time. But that's the point, right? Instead of just being a free getaway for anyone who has an E key on their keyboard, now you actually have to think. So that's great. That's great. DS, I'm surprised they're changing this again. But they do say for the most part it's healthy. So Decisive Strike will now deactivate once the exit gates are powered. This is pretty, you know, impactful, because I can't tell you how many times I, like, had someone on hook, and then I got a trade, and then they used DS on me, and then they fucking got out because they got unhooked like 40 fucking seconds ago. It's bullshit, but now that is away from the game. But that's not the big change. That's a late game thing, right? Being Decisive Striked after the exit gates. This is the huge part. In addition, the stun duration has been reduced from 5 to 3 seconds. That is massive. That is, what, 40%? That is absolutely huge. So instead of just getting Decisive Strike and the blinded and the fucking head-on, now they actually have to think about their Decisive Strike and run around like they're being chased by an actual fucking killer. This is great. This is really healthy for the game. Discouraging like spamming stuns and stuff. So Decisive Strike, even if it's brought with a 4-man, it won't waste nearly as much time as it used to, which is super great. Now you might be wondering about borrowed time, since everyone has borrowed time base kit. Well, don't worry, borrowed time still exists, so if you're super altruistic, don't worry. It'll extend the duration of endurance from unhooked survivors by 6, 8, and 10, respectively, for the tier, and it increases the movement speed bonus by 10 as well. That's a new effect. So they will be cancelled if the unhooked survivor performs a conspicuous action. That's basically, you know, repairing, cleansing, healing, stuff like that. Basically anything that isn't getting away from the killer, which is super good. But the movement speed duration boost is going to be huge. That is brand new, so it's going to be interesting to see. Borrowed time is going to be as strong, but I think it'll still be a strong, fairly niche perk. Iron Will is next. I mean, I use Iron Will all the time, and I gotta admit, it's so fucking strong. Even if you're just not trying to be stealthy, it's amazing in loops. So they're lowering the grunts of pain to 75% max. So, you know, you're not totally mute anymore, which is fair. You know, it should be harder to hear. But, and then Iron Will is also no longer active when exhausted. That is a huge change, right? So basically Iron Will is reversed, right? You would get Iron Will when you're injured, which, you know, it still works like that, but now you have to be injured and not exhausted. So that's going to be really tricky for, you know, any exhaustion perk. Dead Hard, it's kind of not compatible with them, because the 75%, that's huge, right? You're no longer mute. You could still be heard, it'll just be tricky. But not being active while exhausted, that's almost like defeating the point of the perk. So we'll have to see how this goes. It's definitely not going to be as meta, but we'll have to see. Now, Self-Care is it's such a bad perk. Pretty much everyone remembers the meme of Claudette fucking self-caring in a corner. So this change, its heal speed is lowered to 25, 30, and 35% max at tier 3. And the item efficiency bonus is gone. This is fair enough. I mean, 50% That's what it was, right? 50%. That's like 32 seconds healing yourself. But the problem with this is people, like noobs, are still going to bring it because they say, oh, I could heal myself. I don't care if it takes an hour. So we'll have to see how this goes. It's definitely a worse perk just overall. But I don't know. We'll have to see if that's used as much. Spine Chill. Everyone knows Spine Chill is pretty much the get out of jail free card. Stealth killers, oh god, they hate Spine Chill. I'm a Wraith main. I'm so fucking tired of looking at like a 45-degree angle at everything at the corner of my screen. Spine Chill now only activates if the killer has a clear line of sight, so not through objects, and not through fucking all that bullshit. And then there's a short lingering effect to Spine Chill. So instead of like flashing on and off so you know exactly where the killer is and stuff, and it makes the action speed boost actually more useful too, which is good. Spine Chill boosts were super helpful, but they usually weren't active much unless the killer was like staring at you. But this is huge. The vault speed bonus is removed from Spine Chill. They don't think it suits the perk's nature. So all those like last second misses when vaulting, those are going to be a lot less common, right? There's other perks for that, but Spine Chill was like the big one. So this is interesting. They're making it weaker in Chase and then stronger on like generators. But as an info perk, it is way weaker, right? Because almost never is Spine Chill useful if you have line of sight on the killer. So this is... Spine Chill is actually going to be fairly similar as it was to like open maps. But in like loops and LT walls, Spine Chill is going to be way weaker. So, especially without the vault bonus. So it's definitely weaker. It probably goes from like 5-star to 4, maybe even 3. So it's definitely making me think about my build, which is a good thing. But yeah, we'll see that. So these are the buffs now, because you don't just want a bunch of fucking nerfs, although some of these could be considered, like the borrowed time one, that could be considered a buff. But Overcharge, I love using Overcharge on my impossible skill check doctor build. It's just so funny, but any decent survivor can hit it fairly easily, even in Madness Tier 2. So Overcharge will now cause generator's regression speed to grow from 100 to 400% over the course of 30 seconds. That's right, a generator now regresses 4 times faster after being kicked by Overcharge. It has a build-up though, which I think is healthy, but this will add a bit of intensity to Overcharge like it should have. So Eruption, when it was released, it was pretty average perk, but now they're saying they're comfortable with actually increasing the stats of this perk. So the generator regression penalty is 10%, and the duration of the incapacitated effect is up to 25 in Tier 3, 25 seconds. So that's pretty strong. We're going to have to see how that works with a lot of other builds and stuff, but it's good that they're giving a niche perk actual use. Knockout, it's definitely a niche perk. It has usually a build centered around it. So its current effect is the same, but Knockout will also cause a new effect of dying survivors will crawl slower, 50% slower for 15 seconds, and reduce their recovery speed by 25%. So this makes it a lot harder to just find a survivor and then heal them up. Now it's harder to do both. So Coulrophobia is the bad perk, you know, it doesn't really have any use. But now, it'll increase the speed of skill checks by 50% on top of the item drain that it has. So this is going to be crazy on Doctor. You know, with his madness effect, this is going to be really insane. But it gives it a use, which I think is really good. So skill checks are finally like skill checks. You actually have to pay attention instead of just kind of not itching your nose. So that's pretty cool. Dark Devotion is a pretty fair niche perk, but the basic attack requirement makes it unappealing. So a lot of people don't use it on like specialist killers, but it will now activate whenever the obsession loses a health state. So regardless of how you get them there. So besides insta kills, this is a really good quality of life change to allow it to work with more killers. Jolt used to be Surge, but it was another just kind of underwhelming perk. The cooldown's pretty bad, so it's not always worth using. But now there is no cooldown. This is really strong. I think this is going to make it meta, because cooldowns just totally ruin perks in this game. So being able to just consistently knock people down and then Surge or Jolt all the generators within 32 meters is very strong. So, you know, all the annoying Survive with Friends who would just go down, pick each other up with broken med kits and perks, That's actually going to work against them in this perk, so that's really awesome. Lethal Pursuer is a really strong early perk, 7-second aura reading, but it's actually increased by 2 seconds, so it's 9 seconds now, I believe. It's either 9 or 11 seconds, but either way, it's really strong. It'll allow you to see where everyone is, what they're doing, and definitely get an early hit, or at least start a chase very quick. Scourge Hook, Gift of Pain, came out, another very average perk, so they're increasing the action speed penalty to 16% in tier 3. Nothing special, but it definitely gives it a niche in certain builds, so that's awesome. Thana, it was a good perk, and then they nerfed it, and then it was a bad perk. Now they're switching it. The action speed penalty is 5.5% per survivor for a maximum of 22%. So basically they're just balancing this out again. It's usable now. Before it was kind of shit, but now it's fairly usable in certain builds, especially with like Legion with his new changes. So it has a place, but it's not broken, I think. Monstrous Shrine, oh my god, they even say right here, long have we waited. It's the meme perk, it's so bad no one uses it. It's changed, okay? The old ways are gone. All basement hooks with this perk are now Scourge Hooks. Scourge Hooks also grant 20% faster enemy progression, but only if the killer is not within 24 meters. So Basement Bubba, get the fuck out of here. It's no longer effective to basement camp, but it will allow significantly faster progression on the hook, since it's a Scourge Hook. So this is cool, it gives it a niche, but not a basement camping niche, thank God. That's what I was concerned about, because I knew they were changing a lot of perks, but if they just buffed this one without giving it the 24 meter condition, then it would have been really troublesome. But yeah, 24 meters, that's plenty to get away from a stupid fucking basement Bubba, so this is great. Now, Survivor perk buffs. All the niche perks that you will never use on Survivors, here they are. Calm Spirit, pretty much only good against Spirit, or sometimes Doctor. You can now open chests and cleanse and bless totems silently, but at 30% reduced speed. So another niche, but at least usable effect. You're slower at blessing, cleansing, and opening chests, which aren't super common actions, which is fair, but they're totally quiet. This is pretty strong. Good killers can hear totems like miles away. Same with chests and blessing. So this is going to be helpful for a little bit of sneaky strats, which is good. Saboteur was basically just shittier toolbox. No one ever uses it, because why would you? Saboteurs can now identify Scourge Hooks. Auras are shown in yellow when a survivor is being carried. Use this information to your advantage to prevent Scourge Hook perks, but it gives a little bit of counterplay to the Monstrous Shrine change, so you'll know if they have that perk. But besides that, it's still niche, but at least it has a use, you know? Botany Knowledge now increases healing speed by 50% instead of 33%. This is really good. Botany Knowledge on certain builds is already strong, but this gives it a very altruistic effect, which is good. Off the Record. So this one, Off the Record, is crazy. It increases the endurance effect for 80 seconds. That's a bit concerning, because that's easily exploitable, but it's lost upon a conspicuous action, which is fair. So pretty much any progression will cancel it out. It's purely for evading a killer, so it works really well on some like stealth builds, but yeah, it's not nearly as exploitable as I thought because of the conspicuous action effect, so that's good. Lucky Break, it's good for escaping chase, but the effect kind of sucks. So each second spent healing another survivor increases Lucky Break's duration by 1. But it can't exceed the starting duration. This is really good, so this is another great altruistic perk change. So this is going to be really effective on some builds without being broken, I think. But obviously the main goal here is to give more than just like 10 perks in the game use, which is really effective here. Pharmacy used to guarantee an emergency medkit the first time you search a chest. So you'd either hope nobody takes it or hide like a medkit goblin, they say. Very true. So Pharmacy will activate whenever you're injured, guaranteeing an emergency medkit when you search a chest. And it can happen multiple times in one trial. So now that fucking Meg who chases you around stealing your shit and then dies anyway, she's fucked. You know, you can only carry one item at a time, so no matter what, you're getting your medkit, which is good. Soul Survivor, it now increases your gen repair speed by 75% and your exit gate and hatch action by 50%. They're only active when you're the last survivor standing. This is fun. This adds a lot of more tensity to the one-on-one situation when everyone else is dead. because usually you just bring that one bill perk I can't think of to help you see the hatch, and that's pretty much all that helps. But this is another really strong, as you could tell, perk, but it only activates when you're dead. So Survive with Friends actually have some use for this, but solo queue has even more use for this. You know, if your teammates die in like fucking 5 minutes, this is super helpful. We've added a way to regain distortion tokens, which is nice. You get a token every 30 seconds spent within the terror radius. I think this is pretty fair. 30 seconds is a much longer time than you'd think in a terror radius. So even though you technically have infinite tokens, you gotta work for it, which is good. Lightweight. I used to try to use lightweight, but it was just so bad. But they're finally changing it. So scratch marks fade 3 seconds sooner, which is just so nice. So I think your scratch marks are only visible for, what, a second? This is strong. This could be meta, you know? This could be meta changing. Of course, it'll be easier to find you in chase, but otherwise, it's going to be really, really hard. Or maybe it's 5 total. Either way, it's only a couple seconds instead of the 7 seconds that your scratch marks are visible base. Deja Vu, power the 3 closest generators. It'll grant a 5% repair speed bonus to the revealed generators. So that's good. It actually gives you some mechanical use instead of just being a new player perk, so that's nice. No One Left Behind, it grants a 7% movement speed bonus to any survivors you unhook. That's really nice, on top of the base 7, so that's 14 total, which is sweet. Perk now also activates when the gates are powered rather than opened. That's a pretty good change in my opinion, because rarely would you open a gate and then just need this perk. They've changed the way Dark Sense works though. So when a gen's powered, Dark Sense activates. The next time the killer comes within 24 meters of you, their aura is revealed for 10 seconds, and then it deactivates. So it's a one-time perk, but it's fairly effective, I think. So before it was, I think whenever a gen is completed, or something like that, but it wasn't very helpful. Now this gives a very strong way to counter the killer, but only for 10 seconds once, which is fair. So on top of all of its current effects, it also reduces your grunts of pain by 75% when in the dying state. Combined with the increased crawling speed, it'll now be much more effective in crawling away from the killer. It's going to be tricky to catch survivors with this perk, but it wasn't used too much often, besides outside of like meme perks, so that's good. Hope is another useless perk that's just so close to being decent, but they're finally changing it. So it's only useful at the end of the game. They removed the duration entirely. So that's super nice. Sometimes your teammates would just waste it because it's only like 2 minutes, so they just sit around or hide or not distract the killer. So this is super nice because endgame is usually really, really long or really short. There's rarely an in-between, you know, so this is nice. Overzealous, the bonus doubles if you cleanse a hex totem. This is nice. It also gives it some use. Now, We're Gonna Live Forever, they just recently changed it to give bonus blood points like barbecue. They don't want the blood points to dictate which perks are used, so they removed the bonus just like barbecue. But since the grind is 75% less, it's not too big of a deal. Actions that previously granted a token will now activate the perk's secondary effect, which is healing a survivor from the dying state grants them the endurance effect for 10 seconds, and then it deactivates. So it's a one-time thing, but it gives them 10-second BT. So this is going to be really strong in late game, but since it's one time, it's not as abusable as Survive with Friends would make it otherwise. Those are all the perks that are changed, at least for now, but those are going to be in the PTB, so you could download that and test them out. But as you could tell, the meta is totally shifting. You're never going to have the same fucking 10 perks again, because not only are some of these really strong now, but most of them have use, which is crazy because a lot of them didn't. Like lightweight, no one runs lightweight. Saboteur, never see that unless you just didn't have a toolbox. So it's going to be really nice to see all these changes. So the PTB is going to be super exciting. I'll have some gameplay of that with all these new perks and stuff. And this is the update we've been waiting for, boys.